When we think about our cell phones and all our connected devices and the amazing things that we can do with our devices, everything from staying in touch with loved ones to learning on the go, getting work done on the go, the possibilities are absolutely endless. But behind all of that is what I like to call the engine of connectivity. Essentially, what keeps the connectivity lights on. And so that is, of course, infrastructure. And today we're going to be talking about telecommunications infrastructure. Now, you might be wondering, why is that important to discuss? Well, here on the African continent, we have a bit of a dichotomy, where we have emerging technologies and we have a digital economy that is advancing at a rapid rate. But we also have millions of Africans who are not connected. So today we want to delve a bit deeper into some of the collaborations, partnerships, but of course, innovative solutions that can help support and drive the future of connectivity on the African continent and how we can do that by partnering throughout the telecommunications ecosystem. Welcome to Connectivity Conversations, a podcast by ATC Africa, where we discuss insights and innovations for building a more connected world. My name is Aderonke Adebanjo, and I'm your host. So on the show today, we have a very special guest who is going to be taking us through this discussion on telecommunications infrastructure, and it's none other than the CEO of ATC Africa, Marek Busfy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Aderonke. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's so good to have you.
Yeah, and thanks for pulling these together. It's super exciting. I think, as you said, we're kind of the magic behind what gives people connectivity. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's such a pleasure to have you. And I'm so excited for this conversation because there's a lot to talk about.
Good to be here with you in Nigeria.
Yes,
yeah.
All the way from SA, in case you all don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so Marek, let's talk a little bit about your morning routine before we get into our discussion. I want to know a little bit about what you do to get going, because you are overseeing the engine of connectivity across many markets on the African continent, 7 to be precise. So let's talk a little bit about how you get going in the morning.
Sure. I hope I don't disappoint you. I love my sleep, I can tell you that. Mm-hmm. So my typical morning is not like yesterday where I got up at 4 to get to Abuja. Mm-hmm. But the routine is, I get up a bit of an addict for the daily news summary we get from corporates, which gives me a bit of a sense of what investors are saying, what the market's saying. So I really like to start the day connecting with what's latest in the news, Bloomberg, do a bit of catch up on LinkedIn. So unfortunately, it's straight for the phone. I'm not a big breakfast person, but I do love my coffee. Mm-hmm. As the team found out yesterday when we went searching for a coffee bar early in the morning. And I think we found ourselves a Nescafe sachet to add with some hot water. So typically a coffee to start the day. I like to, when I can, go for a run, go for a walk. I think one of the toughest things in our roles, in my role, is, making sure you have time to think. So, and before the day gets busy and the meetings get going, it's a bit about that, thinking about what's happening outside our business, thinking about what's important for the week. So that's a bit of nothing too exciting, but that's the start to my day.
I like it. Yeah. I like it. Very interesting. Yeah. So Marek, let's talk about the telecommunications industry in terms of the fact that we've been in this industry. I mean, I'm sure you've been much longer, but at least about over a decade now.
Yeah.
And there have been so many changes, of course, with the emerging technologies. But even in terms of infrastructure, do you want to just tell us a little bit about the landscape across the African continent in your view?
Yeah, it's giving away my age now, but I think it's 23 years in telecoms.
Wow.
And a lot has changed. I was thinking back, when we started, it was just about a voice call, right? From one person to another. So that was the extent. It was helping people make a call. And today it's, I was looking through our customer strategies. They're not even looking at themselves as telecom operators. They're all technology players. They, many of them as their strategy are very involved in the FinCos, running mobile money services, content services. So the industry has really transformed. You kind of, when you're in it, you maybe don't see it day to day. But if you step back, I just reflect on the amount of data we got going through the networks now, and how it's, as you know, in the beginning, as I said, it was me being able to phone you, and now it's me. So it was me connecting to you, and now it's me connecting to the world. I explained how I start my day. That's basically, I start my day on ATC infrastructure. So I think that's what's been super inspirational for myself, and I think a lot of people at ATC is, you know, the impact we're having in Africa. We've only been on the continent for, you know, 11 years. But in those 11 years, I mean, we're now at 25,000 towers, and each of those towers probably makes an impact, you know, on sort of 5, 10, 20,000 people's lives. So a lot going on, and a lot of change. And I think what's really exciting is when you think about, so what does the next 10 years look like? You know, what we're going to be doing on our devices. I don't know if have you ever used those virtual reality goggles?
I have.
Yeah. What, any specific use? I know we brought it in the office, and we had everyone do a conference call on them.
Really?
And then we had some of us. So you put these goggles on, and you it's not really a conference call, but you land up around a desk in a
with
meeting.
Everybody present.
With everyone,
yeah.
And then you get to stand up and go and draw on the whiteboard and listen. I mean, we were talking about Gen Z earlier, so I wasn't quite ready for the movement from Office to Teams to this thing.
Right.
But it kind of shows you what's possible, and I think it's amazing what we're gonna go through in the next 10 years. So. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so as far as like the infrastructure landscape, you know, you've talked about the fact that we're now at like 25,000, which is absolutely amazing. When you think about 10 years from now, what are your thoughts on like how the infrastructure is going to evolve in terms of even the numbers and the density and all of that?
Yeah. I was reading the Ericsson Mobility Report. It's a really interesting report. Talks in the US, people are consuming around 26 gigs of data. In Nigeria, we're at about 4 per person. In South Africa, about 6. So Sub-Sahara somewhere between those two in the sort of average. And if you just think, there's no reason why anyone in Africa would consume less. In fact, we have less alternatives. We don't have fiber. We have very little fixed. So, you know, I think that thirst for broadband, the thirst for connectivity is going to drive our data usage up to levels where they are today. In fact, beyond. I think the US, they were saying 2028 or so, gets to 40 gigs per person.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
What are they doing? That's what I want to know.
That's a lot of movies and content.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that so if we just start with that, the outside, what's the user behavior going to be, and then work backwards, what do we need to get that done? And that's before you overlay a lot of the innovation coming out of Africa around mobile money and other services. You know, I think that we've got a huge opportunity in Africa. So from 4 to 26 is 6 times in terms of data throughput. And when we look at the number of towers or number of BTS or technology points of service, the mobile operator points of service, if we look at the number of those per population, we are so many factors behind where we are in Europe and the US. So it's hard to put an exact number on it, but I mean, we're definitely probably 3 to 4 times more towers we need on the continent. So that's the opportunity. Super exciting.
Absolutely.
And behind that, you need fiber. So that's fiber to all those sites. You need power. Yeah. You know, we're starting with a very different base here of infrastructure. In many advanced economies, you kind of just plug it in at the site. So when we talk about the role American Tower's playing and what we're looking at in terms of infrastructure needs, it's not just connectivity, it's power. It's backhaul, and so, you know, I think one of the things we have to figure out as a team, as an industry, is how we fund this. That is our biggest challenge. You know, working with the teams here, we've proven we can operate in a challenging environment, managing with, restrictions around power, managing with challenges with even, we build roads for many of our sites.
It's amazing.
That's where we're starting. We're starting with a road to the site. But the thing we can't solve is capital on our own. So I think for me, that's top of mind, is how we crowd in more capital to Africa for infrastructure.
What would you say has been you 23 years? You have kind of dated yourself, but it's okay.
I started work when I was 5.
I love it. But when you think about, your journey so far in the industry, what has been the most inspiring thing for you over the course of the years?
You need to wake up every day in this job and be inspired. So thinking about the one thing is difficult. There's probably a few moments that have been very special for me. We recently launched our impact strategy, and it wasn't the launch, but it was watching it come together. I love building teams, and it's kind of when you get your team together I'm an engineer by background, so I enjoy solving big problems. And I enjoy kind of when we got the team together and we're thinking about how do we put together a plan that gives everyone a sense of what success looks like. Kind of gel the 800 odd people, talent we have in ATC Africa behind this kind of one plan. And then you're in it, and then one day it's done and you see it with your help being put out there, and then you get to step back and you see sort of what's been created. That was very inspiring. It's very challenging to create something that is clear, simple, but covers quite a complex area. So I think that's been really inspiring for me. I'm super competitive, so when I think about other things that have inspired me, it's been some of the real challenges we've had, that we've got through, overcoming some of the fears, I think learning. I know the ex-CEO of IBM, Jeannie Rometty, she said, growth and comfort cannot coexist. So you cannot be comfortable and be growing.
Wow.
And so when I think about growing, for me, it's about learning. And let's be honest, some of the best learnings come from our mistakes. So, when I'm inspired, it's when I look back and I think, wow, how did I get through that? I've learned a lot, but there was a bump in the road. And often I've got through it with a team, and that's inspiring. But, we talk at American Tower about, I have your back. Yeah. That is inspiring when you feel it.
Yeah.
When you feel it, when you feel someone's had your back and you know it, or your team's had your back, then that's inspiring. So, yeah.
Brilliant. So we're going to end on this note. When you think about the next 10 years, when you think about the next 20 years, I don't know when you want to retire, but, as you look ahead, maybe another 40 years from now, how would you say ATC Africa is kind of positioning, how are we positioning ourselves to stay on the cutting edge? Of course, without giving away any of our trade secrets, but when you just think about where we're headed, what would you say we're looking to do in terms of innovating for a mobile future?
So the trick to what I've learned over the last while is the first trick to position yourself for the future is stay close to your customers and understand their needs. Really stay close to them. And we talk a lot about being a strategic partner. And that's difficult. I think that in the beginning, our customers would say, yeah, you're our strategic partner. And then somewhere along the line, the discussion would go to cost and then supplier, and then you'd realize you're quickly moving back to something that's not quite engaging at the strategic level. We need to keep close at that level to be able to listen and understand what's the customer strategy. And then I think it's about, building this culture that's adaptable, that is curious, that is resilient, because there is going to be change. I can't tell you exactly what the change is, but I read one of my favorite books talks about, get the right people on the bus. Yeah. And then those people will adapt to the change. And we've really built, it's one of the things I'm most proud about. We've really built a culture, a team in American Tower that's very agile and resilient and understands our customers' needs. And so once you've got those two ingredients, then, I think you need to make sure you're innovative. What's our secret in terms of innovation? We didn't come up with the tower, and, we're doing fiber, but we didn't invent fiber, Our innovation is really how we bring together technology, our operational capability, and the commercial skills to be able to solve complex challenges around how you invest on a long-term basis to create win-wins with customers, the community, and our shareholders. Yeah. That's become our sort of secret sauce. And I think that, so when I look into the future, I can't tell you exactly what we're going to solve, how we're going to solve it, but I can say those ingredients are going to make sure we're successful. We've got a long runway of sort of traditional macro, our traditional towers to provide coverage. I'm excited about some of the solutions we're doing around this RAN as a service, because it lowers the cost further. And of course, I think on power, there's a huge opportunity for us to do more innovative stuff at the edge, as I mentioned, the trends. So, maybe haven't given you that. So everyone's watched the podcast to get to the end and think, oh, he didn't give us what does the future look like? I hope they weren't waiting for that. But yeah, I think it's more important that we're ready for the future than knowing exactly. I've been around, like you said, 23 years, long enough to know that, any 5-year strategy changes in year 2.
Yeah.
So,
right.
So,
right.
Be ready to adapt.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have great talent. So, yeah.
This has been a great conversation, Marek. I've really enjoyed this. And I'm hoping that I trust actually that everybody out there has enjoyed this conversation as well. Hopefully we'll have you back. Maybe we'll do the next one in SA. Who knows? Maybe we'll do it again in Nigeria sometime soon. But thank you for your insights on how we're building a more connected world and how we can work with our partners to do just that. It's been a pleasure having you on Connectivity Conversations. Look forward to having you back.
Thank you, Aderonke. Great initiative, and I've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, as I said earlier. Leave a comment if you have anything that you'd like to share with us. Put on those notifications so that you don't miss the next Connectivity Conversation, and we'll catch you on the next one. My name is Aderonke Adebanjo, and this is Connectivity Conversations, a podcast of ATC Africa, where we talk about insights and innovations for building a more connected world. See you next time.